Socrates, one of the most influential philosophers in the world, lived in ancient Athens during the 5th century BC. He is literally credited as the founder of Western philosophy and among the first moral philosophers of the ethical tradition of thought. Although he left no writings of his own, his ideas and teachings have been preserved through the writings of his students, primarily Plato and Xenophon. Socrates is best known for his method of inquiry, now called the Socratic Method, which involves asking probing questions to elicit deeper insights and understanding from his interlocutors. This method aimed at uncovering underlying assumptions, contradictions, and inconsistencies in people's beliefs, leading them to a clearer comprehension of the subject matter under discussion. Socratic dialogues, often depicted in Plato's works, typically involve Socrates engaging in conversations with fellow Athenians on topics ranging from justice and virtue to knowledge and the nature of the soul. Central to Socrates' philosophy was his emphasis on self-examination and the pursuit of wisdom. He famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living, suggesting that critical self-reflection is essential for personal growth and understanding. Socrates believed that true wisdom comes from acknowledging one's own ignorance, which opens the door to learning and self-improvement. Despite his profound impact in philosophy, Socrates faced significant opposition in Athens. He was often perceived as a gadfly, challenging conventional beliefs and authority figures. In 399 BC, he was charged with impiety and corrupting the youth of Athens, ultimately leading to his trial and execution by drinking poison hemlock. Socrates' trial and death have become emblematic of the tension between individual conscience and societal norms, as well as the enduring legacy of intellectual courage and integrity. His willingness to face death rather than compromise his principles has inspired countless generations and cemented his status as a symbol of philosophical inquiry and moral righteousness. Through his enduring influence on Western philosophy, Socrates continues to provoke thought and reflection on fundamental questions about the nature of existence, morality, and the pursuit of knowledge. His commitment to questioning assumptions and seeking truth remains a guiding principle for those who strive for intellectual honesty and moral clarity. As mentioned earlier, the fundamental characteristic of Plato's Socrates is the Socratic Method, or the method of refutation, elenchus. It is most prominent in the early works of Plato such as Apology, Crito, Gorgias, Republic Warn, and others. The typical elenchus proceeds as follows. Socrates initiates a discussion about a topic with a known expert on the subject, usually in the company of some young men and boys, and by dialogue proves the expert's beliefs and arguments to be contradictory. Socrates initiates the dialogue by asking his interlocutor for a definition of the subject. As he asks more questions, the interlocutor's answers eventually contradict the first definition. The conclusion is that the expert did not really know the definition in the first place. The interlocutor may come up with a different definition. That new definition, in turn, comes under the scrutiny of Socratic questioning. With each round of question and answer, Socrates and his interlocutor hope to approach the truth. More often, they continue to reveal their ignorance. Since the interlocutor's definitions most commonly represent the mainstream opinion on a matter, the discussion places doubt on the common opinion. Socrates also tests his own opinions through the Socratic method. Thus, Socrates does not teach a fixed philosophical doctrine. Rather, he acknowledges his own ignorance while searching for truth with his pupils and interlocutors. For Socrates, the pursuit of eudaimonia motivates all human action, directly or indirectly. Virtue and knowledge are linked, in Socrates' view, to eudaimonia, but how closely he considered them to be connected is still debated. Some argue that Socrates thought that virtue and eudaimonia are identical. According to another view, virtue serves as a means to eudaimonia, the identical and sufficiency theses, respectively. Another point of debate is whether, according to Socrates, people desire what is in fact good, or rather simply what they perceive as good. Moral intellectualism refers to the prominent role Socrates gave to knowledge. He believed that all virtue was based on knowledge, hence Socrates is characterized as a virtue intellectualist. He also believed that humans were guided by the cognitive power to comprehend what they desire, while diminishing the role of impulses, a view termed motivational intellectualism. In Plato's Protagoras, Socrates implies that no one errs willingly, which has become the hallmark of Socratic virtue intellectualism. In Socratic moral philosophy, priority is given to the intellect as being the way to live a good life. Socrates de-emphasizes irrational beliefs or passions. Plato's dialogues that support Socrates' intellectual motivism, as this thesis is named, are mainly the Gorgias, where Socrates discusses the actions of a tyrant that do not benefit him, and Meno, where Socrates explains to Meno his view that no one wants bad things, unless they do not know what is good and bad in the first place. Scholars have been puzzled by Socrates' view that akrasia, acting because of one's irrational passions contrary to one's knowledge or beliefs, is impossible. Most believe that Socrates left no space for irrational desires, although some claim that Socrates acknowledged the existence of irrational motivations, but denied they play a primary role in decision-making. Socrates' theory of virtue states that all virtues are essentially one, since they are a form of knowledge. For Socrates, the reason a person is not good is because they lack knowledge. Since knowledge is united, virtues are united as well. Socratic thought found its way to the Islamic Middle East alongside that of Aristotle and the Stoics. For Muslim scholars, Socrates was hailed and admired for combining his ethics with his lifestyle, perhaps because of the resemblance in this regard with Muhammad's personality. Socratic doctrines were altered to match Islamic faith. According to Muslim scholars, Socrates made arguments for monotheism and for the temporality of this world and rewards in the next life. His influence in the Arabic-speaking world continues to the present day. In medieval times, little of Socrates' thoughts survived in the Christian world as a whole. However, works on Socrates from Christian scholars such as Lactantius, Eusebius, and Augustine were maintained in the Byzantine Empire, where Socrates was studied under a Christian lens. After the fall of Constantinople, many of the texts were brought back into the world of Roman Christianity, where they were translated into Latin. Overall, ancient Socratic philosophy, like the rest of classical literature before the Renaissance, was addressed with skepticism in the Christian world. Socrates' legacy is truly unfathomable, and his important role in philosophy is undeniable. No matter what your beliefs are, you must always strive for personal growth and inner fulfillment. That's exactly what the figure of Socrates represents. So, what are you waiting for? Be like Socrates,